Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Janet Zinn. She is a psychotherapist and author. She's the author of In the Time of Coronavirus, and we'll got to talk to her so many things about life and living. Welcome to the show,
Oh,
Janet.
what a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Janet. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about the path to joyful living. We'll learn, understand all about this. But before we talk about that path, let's talk about your journey, the path you took, the background you have, so that people know about more about you, about everything that you are. Thank you so much for that. In advance, we'll learn about from your journey itself.
Okay. Um, I've been a psychotherapist for almost 30 years, and I did not start on that path whatsoever, which I do really endorse people to go non traditional paths because I think that we can't imagine what our future will bring. So I started out moving to New York City to be an actress. And although I still love theater, that was not my path. It wasn't working out, and I was trying to figure out who am I if I'm not an actress. I happen to be rather dramatic in just the way I am, and I mistook that for thinking I belonged in the theater. So I discovered that I love going to the theater, but that was not right for me. And I thought, what was helping me to get where I even was compared to when I came to New York, and it was psychotherapy. So I thought, let me try that. And so I took some classes, and I really resonated with that. And so as a probably 17th career, because as an actress you do many different kinds of jobs, at least that's true in New York City, that I found what was right for me. And I started out, and then 9/11 happened. And I had been working with a lot of people who had been experiencing trauma, and I was called in to work with companies and to work with individuals who had been on site, who had lost people, and people, whether it was coworkers or loved ones, and then just people who had been working downtown as well. And so I immediately got training and worked with many different companies and groups, and did that for a number of years. And and then from there, I just my practice expanded, and I just kept doing what I do, working with people that had gone through trauma and loss, as well as many other transitional issues. And then once coronavirus came, I just culled from that experience for like, okay, what is it like to go through these hard times? And mostly people were looking for tools that they could use. So I created a blog and did a weekly post, and then added self-care tips, suggesting to people that when people hear self-care tips, they think that like, oh, I should be doing this. And I say, see what fits into your life, see what you like, see what's right for you. We are all individuals, and what's right for me is not right for the next person. So there were many different kinds of self-care tips, from the pragmatic to the more esoteric. And people said, "Oh, you should make this into a book." And so I said, "No, no, no, it's a blog. It's a blog." But eventually, I was asked, and so I published the book, and it's been very helpful. And then recently in the States, we had an election, and some people who had more of a humanitarian approach were feeling very frustrated and upset. And so, again, the book has been a great reference point for them. So this is where I am today.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is where you are today, and you are now as a mental health providing supporting clients to move through obstacles, internal and external, that get in the way of living a joy filled life. We'll
Yes.
come to the book part, but if you have the book with you,
Yes.
Janet, show it for our audience.
Okay.
Can you
Whoops.
show it on the
I,
yeah, yeah,
yes.
this
It's
side is a bit more straight way.
like
Yes, this is the
that.
best. Yeah,
Okay.
this is clear. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We'll come to and talk about this book also, Janet. But first,
Okay.
let's understand about living the path to joyful living. How did you find your path to present? You talked about 17 jobs, including trauma responder and crisis counselor post
Yes.
9/11. How did you find your path at different aspects, in life? And was joy with you all the time, or did you have to keep on looking for joy? How do people find joy along the path, or you wait for the path to come, the destination to come, and then you find joy waiting for you? How does that work, Janet?
Um, that wasn't my experience, and if somebody can find it that way, I'm not going to discount that, but I haven't heard anybody yet that has kind of waited for it to come and then it arrives. Um, I do believe it takes very small incremental steps, and that we have to be open to the just the sliver of a window when a little light comes in, and to be able to then appreciate that and then kind of build on that. And I do also think that there are just some things that are hard in life, and that it is our experience of being able to get through it that brings us resilience, and that we can see the strength that we have, and that we can then access that strength at a future time to be able to get through something else that's hard, because sadly it's not a one and done experience. Okay, we went through something hard and now our lives are going to be great. It that can happen again and again, but those hard times can be a great teacher for us, if we're allowing it. But we also don't want to skip over the, like, oh, I should be grateful for, I don't know, like, to manufacture gratitude basically when we're feeling very, very traumatized, or feeling very, very sad or hurt or upset, that we want to be able to have a place to hold those experiences and to feel our feelings, so that then we can get to the other side of that. We don't want to skip that and kind of put, if you will, like, frosting on a mud cake, like, we want to be able to say, yeah, this is a mud cake. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to ingest it. I see that. I'll save my frosting for another time when I see something that should be decorated.
Absolutely, absolutely. So during these times, you
Mhm.
with so much of stress and all, and people are trying to find themselves, you
Yes,
talk about making connections by celebrating our individuality. The problem, Janet, is that connections want your time. They also want your authenticity, and want to inject their own authenticity into your persona. A lot of
absolutely.
people want to, uh, instead of connecting, they want a bit more of control over you. How do you then create connections in these times, as well as maintain your individuality, Janet? If you can share some wisdom in this.
That's a great question, and it's a loaded question too. I think it really depends on the relationship. So let's say somebody has power, maybe it's a boss, and so they are going to be in your life, and they do determine our income. We might have a different response to that person than an arbitrary friend of a friend who has maybe a goodwill but gives us bad advice for what we need. So if it's our boss, let's say, and then we say, okay, is there anything here that I can take? Or what is most important to me? Is Do I need to prioritize that this is just the circumstances under which I am making a living, and that I have to listen to this person who's maybe giving me ill advice? Or like maybe he has or she has something, or they have something that that I can take from this even, and so can we open ourselves to listen rather than to shut down, to say, is there something here, can I be curious, that maybe I can take one nugget from this, even though I have to hear an hour's lecture of something that isn't relevant to my experience, let's just say. So just to be open and curious can really make a difference, but also to tune into our physical experience. So if I'm feeling like someone's talking to me and I get more anxious, then say, like, oh, maybe this is not feeling right for me. And I can trust my experience with this. I might not know why yet, but I can trust that this just isn't hitting me right. So that you can kind of extricate yourself from that exchange as politely as you can, and then say, like, okay, let me manage, what am I going through, what am I experiencing, how did it hit me, it made me feel more anxious, I don't think this is the way to go, I don't know how to proceed, but I'm just going to trust that this doesn't feel right. And then you might want to check in with people that really appreciate and value who we are, just to be able to have a check-in, to like remind ourselves that we can proceed and that we can be seen and known. But we also don't want people that just tell us yes, 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 because that isn't going to have us grow either. But it is important that we have the people that do appreciate us. So it's kind of having that balance. And sometimes we're in situations in which um, let's say there's a mother-in-law who has good intentions but is very specific on how they want things done, and that doesn't feel the way we want things done. So is there a way to um, be respectful and maybe see if there's anything that they want done a certain way, and then like be able to insert a piece of what we would like. So it might have to be small steps to get there, to be like, I'd like things a little bit different, so how can we work together on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that is where, as somebody who knows about mental health, you are a mental health provider, as we talked
Yes.
on private practice. So in terms of your clients who come to you, I want to understand, about this whole stress business, about this mental health issues. Now, why are people, suffering from mental health issues right nowadays? More people are suffering. Why is it? Because of other people, or is it because they are not feeling good about the things they are experiencing in their lives? How does that work? How do you also take care of, talk about taking care of yourself is caring for others? So how do I do that amidst all these things that sometimes can be too much nowadays, Janet?
Yes, there's great requirements on us. I mean, just being connected online was supposed to help us. And instead, it's added many, many layers of being in touch with people in many different ways. And sometimes we don't have the time, the energy, or even the inclination at times
Yes.
to be able to keep up. So that can be quite overwhelming in and of itself. And also, we're always told you should be doing this for your mental health, or you should be doing this for your physical health, or you should, and so there's so many things that we should be doing. We could often hear the messaging as whatever I'm doing isn't good enough. And so, what we want to do is to be able to say, okay, what's the reality? I live a very overwhelming life. I have a lot going on. What are the priorities for me? What matters to me? What are my values? And sometimes we make mistakes and we have to, so I used to work so much, and I didn't really understand or appreciate what that was taking away from my family life. So I had to rebalance of like, oh yes, these are people that matter to me, and me saying I love you, but or rather than spending time with them wasn't enough, and that I had to kind of recalibrate and rebalance how I would like to have really quality time with them, as opposed to, okay, Tuesday night we'll have dinner together, um, and just make it a better a better effort to connect in those ways and to see what what do we want, and what matters to us, and then also to see time as like a commodity, and to say like, how do I want to spend my time, what what is needed, because sometimes there are things I certainly don't want to clean my apartment necessarily, but I do want to live in a space that has some order to it. So I have to then say like, okay, what is required of me, to be able to spend that time so that I can then feel more peaceful in my home, because peace matters to me, even though cleaning not so much. So we have to like then maybe think about the trade-offs of what we're investing our time in for something that we may be getting later, and to then be true to ourselves about like what matters to us, whether it's time with friends, whether it's like I really want to build my career, and so I am devoting my time to this right now, knowing that I will be able to start to take more time back for myself. So,
Absolutely.
yes,
Well explained, Janet. And you talked about, peace and cleaning. So obviously, peace cannot wait. Cleaning can wait for some time, isn't it? A-
yes,
And that is where, which brings me to the, you talk about stress. Nowadays, a lot of stress is there about
yes.
even small things. And you talk about three simple things people can do to reduce stress. If you can share those three simple things.
Okay. Um, the first thing would be to take three, just to stop, to take three breaths, to breathe in, like breathe in ease, and you breathe out stress. And so that's just what you're thinking mentally is, I'm breathing in ease, I'm breathing out stress. I'm breathing in ease and I'm breathing out stress. And you do that 3 times. And check in with your body to see what is going on, how are you feeling, and to say, am I okay in this moment? And if the answer is yes, you can say, okay, for this moment, I'm okay. And if the answer is no, then you ask yourself, then you do another inquiry and you ask yourself, what is it that I might need at this time? So it's to me like taking these very, very short 30-second breaks to be able to come back to ourselves. That's one thing that can be incredibly important. Another thing is to stand or to sit, and to a lot of people, often, as I just said for this one exercise, is thinking about breathing. But if we're feeling particularly anxious, much of our energy is in our head and on the top of our body. So what we want to do is ground ourselves. So feel your feet on the ground, feel the texture of whether you're wearing socks or shoes or you're barefoot, or and what that texture feels like, to to crunch and like tense your feet and release them, and to do that as many times. And if you're able to like stamp them, to say like, okay, I am here in this moment. And that can be very, very useful. Sometimes people are panicked, and to be able to feel your feet um, takes your mind away from up here in your thoughts and puts them back down, um, literally on the earth. So that's number two. And number three is, even though I had talked earlier about not manufacturing gratitude, is to say, what is even one thing, although it's great if you can do like a gratitude journal, or you can do something as like one thing both that I'm grateful for, and it can be anything. It can be that I can think about what I'm grateful for. It can be that that the sun, it's a beautiful day outside, or it can be relationships, or that you're healthy, or that you are able to do something delightful. It can be truly anything. And also, what am I proud of for today? So that you're acknowledging yourself and saying, you know what, I'm getting through this really hard time. I don't like the way I'm getting through it. I'm not loving that it's so stressful, but I'm getting through it. It could be that, or it could be, you know what, I'm really proud that I just showed up because I really just wanted to stay in bed. So it could be something like that too. Or it could be like, wow, I got that report done and I didn't even know how I was going to get it done. And so just something that you're proud of. So something you're grateful for and something that you're proud of for yourself.
Absolutely. Well explained, Janet. And then let's come to now learn a bit more about your book about coronavirus reflecting on the past to create a joyful future. Tell us a bit about more about this book of yours.
Yeah, as I said, it started as blog posts, weekly blog posts during the time of coronavirus, and it it really is not about coronavirus, although it takes place as me, as an individual, as a mental health provider in New York City during this pandemic. I would take long, long walks. I would discover different parts of the city. People would say, like, be careful out there, because they were not leaving their homes. And I just said, like, walking really matters to me. But I did discover that some of the things that people used to for self care for themselves, or things that people did in their lives that were really meaningful to them, was just not available during that time. And so we had to like reassess like what matters to us and what is going to get us through hard times. And that sometimes really stressful and very difficult times require different kinds of skills and require different parts of ourselves that we didn't even have to access before. So it's learning kind of personal creativity, if you will, to say like what is going to be meaningful to me and what is going to move me forward in my life.
Right, right, Janet. So you also talk about the past. So
Yes.
how should people look at the past? Past can be good, past can be not so good. How do we sometimes, uh, take the right things from the past and move into things better? Is it possible that way, or you have to take it all together with you? What's the best way to do here, Janet?
Well, I think we all have to acknowledge that, we're carrying some luggage with us. And some of it is beautiful and new and shiny and lovely. And some of it is like, gosh, it needs lots of rope to keep it together. Um, and the thing is that our past can crush us sometimes, and sometimes it can build us. And what we want to see is that everything that we've been through brings us to this moment and brings us to who we are. And how can we see what we've been through that can change who we are? For instance, I mean, this is such a simple thing, and many of us have had the experience of being teased as children. And I certainly was. I was called Frisbon because of my hair. I was, like just laughed at, and it was awful as a child to feel like I didn't fit in anywhere, and wherever I go, I could be like verbally attacked at any time. It was not pleasant, right? But it also gave me a great deal of compassion so that I understand what that's like to feel othered in certain ways, and then to be able to see people in a different way and not to kind of dismiss people, but to feel like they've gone through their own journey, and that I can have more compassion. Now it could be that I could just be like, I I, I don't like people and nobody's good, and I could go in that path. But I just felt like, well, if I went through that, why would I want to bring that on somebody else and cut them off? And so I think that. that is where our past and hard things can inform us, and better us in certain ways. Whether we've had a bad boss and we know now that we don't want to treat people that way, or we can reflect of like, okay, they were really hard on us, but they required us to grow and to be better. And so when is it appropriate to kind of be tough, and when is it appropriate to listen and say, right now I'll give you a break, but we will ask for something better for you in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in a life full of, everything about the past and dilemmas of the present, you know, how do we then make sure that what it takes to live a gratifying life? How do we do that?
Well, first of all, we want to understand that change is inevitable in our lives, and that we can reference what might have made us happy in the past, or what we imagined was going to make us happy. Like, for instance, I said I wanted to be an actress, and I had to really grapple with, like, well, if who am I if I'm not what I imagined myself to be? And it doesn't mean that that devalues me. It means that I just had to do a little bit more discovering of what was right for me, so that we don't drag some idea of ourselves from the past and be stubborn about it. That we can be open to when, when doors aren't opening up, or it's not how, like, we might be determined, like, I'm not going to cry at this meeting, and I'm not going to, because I'm going to be strong. But when you're having these strong feelings and you have an emotion, to be able to say, this really upset me and really hurt me, and I'm not able to not cry, but, like, it doesn't mean that I'm not wholly present in this moment at this meeting. And I hope that you have space for my emotions while we talk about this, so that you don't kind of set rules for yourself, that there's some space for our real human experience. And I think that can cultivate joy in and of itself, when we have the space to say, I'm human, I make mistakes, I do things differently than I had hoped, but I'm still going to grow from the experience. What did I learn? What can I learn? Do I want to change something? If so, how do I do that? And that that alone, just to be able to make space for our humanness, can allow for joy.
Wonderful, wonderfully explained, Janet. There is much to learn from you, Janet, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to connect with you, learn more from you, about being your client. What's the best way for them to do so?
Probably the best way is to go to my website, which is janetzinn.com. Um, that's probably the best way. Or if they want to get a copy of the book, that has some of my contact information. I think that's part of the book. Um, I think those two ways are probably the best way to be in touch with me.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass
Oh,
Live. Thank you
thank you.
so much indeed for
Thank
joining
you
us.
so much.